It's rare that any restaurant or hospitality concept gets people in several times a day. You might go out to dinner once or twice a week, maybe twice a month. Everyone has their favorites that they're loyal to, but this particular brand, fantastic name, fantastic branding. This is a crash course in finding and staying relevant. This brand has a multi-generational audience that loves and appreciates the brand. You're going to learn a lot today. My guest, Scott Snyder, and the brand is Badass Coffee of Hawaii. You're not going to want to miss this. If you like what you're hearing, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast player. It'll help other managers, owners, hospitality professionals find us. And if you have an idea for an upcoming episode or a topic that you'd like us to cover, reach out to me. Or if you have any business challenges, reach out. Roger, Roger, at restaurantrockstars.com. I love talking shop with operators. So stay tuned, and here we go. Welcome back to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. So glad you're with us. And Scott, welcome to the show today. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Scott, why the coffee business?
Wow. Another category in the restaurant space that is more of it's the ultimate habit category, right?
Yes, true.
Coffee every day for a lot of people, multiple times per day for other folks. There's really nothing like it, right? It's the center of the universe in terms of how people gather, how they start their day, how they end their day, how they relax, how they interact with others. You can only have hamburgers so many times a day, and you can only have pizza so many times a week, but you can have coffee every day and multiple times. And that's what we love about this brand. And that's what we love about the category.
What a beautiful opportunity that is. And that really puts it in perspective. You're right. Any other meal that you go out for, a day part, it's a one-time thing, and it might be once a week, twice a month maybe. And now we're talking coffee could be several times a day, and you develop a tremendous loyalty to a place if it resonates with you. So I clearly think you're doing a great job there. What's your backstory in hospitality? Is this your first hospitality gig, or you've been around the block in this business?
I've been around the block in this business for quite a while. I've been in the marketing space for over 40 years, and a good chunk of that was with a digital brand agency in Denver here. And we worked with a lot of big names, Einstein's, Jimmy John's, Red Robin, a little bit with McDonald's, but really a client list that was over 120 long. And at that time, when digital was really coming to life, there was a lot of discussion about, gosh, do we need a digital agency or more of a traditional agency? And our approach, my specific approach as chief strategy officer, was all consumers consume their media differently, and it really depends on the consumer. And so what digital did at that time was, for the first time, really gave consumers the keys to the car, right? Brands had to give the keys to the car to the consumer to say, what kind of relationship do you want to have with this brand? That was so appealing to me and so impactful in everything that I've done in my career and the brands that I've worked with, usually on a consulting basis or on an agency basis. And actually, when I stepped into Badass Coffee of Hawaii, it was originally as a consultant. And I asked those first questions. What kind of relationship do you have with your customers? Why do they choose you? And those were some of those very first conversations. So yeah, I've been around the block. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt and got a few t-shirts, and I love what I'm doing now.
Wow, be careful what you wish for. It might come true, and suddenly you're the CEO and not the CMO.
That's right. Liked it so much, we bought the company.
Oh, that's a fantastic story. Thanks for sharing. Do you stay in your lane, or do you have a great influence in the marketing behind Badass Coffee of Hawaii?
I think early on, I had a much bigger influence. When we originally acquired the assets of this company, this is an older company. This company's been around since 1989. I got involved with the brand in 2017 and saw the opportunity, saw the potential. And at that point, the vision for what I thought really differentiated the brand in the market and what was ahead, right? What was that plan going to be? How are we going to relaunch a brand and to reinvigorate a brand that had really fallen on hard times? At that point, I would say a lot of the initial vision as far as what the brand was and the marketing of that brand started with me. But the great part about building an ohana, building a family and a team around this is we've been so blessed. We have such a talented, experienced team. A lot in the marketing side, a lot on the operations side, and everybody brings a little bit different experience. And what I would say is over the last 5 years, that vision of the brand has only gotten stronger because it's been influenced by so many other people that have joined into our ohana.
Can you give us, you mentioned 1989 being the origin. Can you tell us the story of the founding story and maybe where it ran awry or a little bit with, you mentioned that it fallen on hard times and all that sort of thing. And then it was a rebranding and a new direction forward. And that's really powerful for our audience who may have a restaurant they've been running for years and suddenly it's not keeping up with the competition. It might need a rebranding. It might need a new naming. It might be just a new vibe, all those things. And it sounds like you've crossed that bridge several times.
We have such a great story about this brand. It started on the Big Island of Hawaii in 1989. And the very first location actually was just down the street from the oldest coffee farm, Greenwell Farms, the oldest coffee farm on the Big Island, but also the oldest coffee farm in all of Hawaii. And it was really set up initially as a place where the locals who work at the farm or worked around the farms could actually enjoy some of the coffee from those farms. When they latched on to the legend of the asses that were used, the donkeys that were used to bring that coffee down the steep volcanic slopes, back in the days when the missionaries settled into Hawaii to bring Christianity into Hawaii, as they involved the indigenous population into Christianity and into working on these farms to help produce coffee, which supported the missions, they referred to those animals in the same way that they referred to them in the Bible, which was the ass, right? The word ass appears in the King James Bible 83 times. The word donkey doesn't appear at all. And so that's where that whole story of badass coffee came from, because the indigenous folks referred to them as the badass ones because they were stubborn, they were strong, but man, they made a lot of noise and they were mischievous and they were cantankerous. And so that's where the story came from. And that was probably the best thing that the original founder of this brand did, because that really tugged at the heartstrings of both the locals as well as tourists who discovered the brand, loved the name. Obviously, there's a story behind the name, but we also know that there's a second meaning behind that name too. So the brand grew very quickly with a collection of stores, kiosks, coffee carts, and at hotels, things like that. They had about 13 outlets, I would say, in the first 6 years. And the original owners sold it to a couple in Salt Lake City who moved the brand to Salt Lake City in 1995. And that's when the brand started to franchise. That's also where the brand kind of took a turn. It was less of a local brand at that point and was really positioned to be more of what you would call a traditional coffee shop, but with a very strong Hawaiian theme, almost an entertainment look at Hawaii, the way that we would think of Hawaii and Hawaii Five-0, not in an authentic sense, right? And so the brand, because of the name and because of that angle, did do very well at first, but didn't really have the infrastructure, the people, process, systems, technology, innovation, or experience from the management team in running a national franchise organization. So when 2008, the stock market crash hit, this brand was hit very hard. And from 2008 until the time that I was brought in 2017, they had not opened a new location. They had not sold a new franchise, and they had closed more than half of their stores. So when I got to the brand, what it did have was a great name, an amazing product, but an absolute absence of infrastructure. All the things that you need, right? When I look at brands in my career that I choose to work with, you look for those three legs of the stool, right? Is the brand something that you remember for good or bad, right? Is it memorable? Does it stick with you? Is it catchy? Is it fun? Is it meaningful? And then the product. If you don't have a great product, you can have all the marketing in the world, but sooner or later, people are going to see through that you don't have the product to back up whatever the marketing is. And then the sustainability part becomes that infrastructure. So when I looked at this brand and when I came in to work with it, the other thing that it had was some very loyal, honest, hardworking franchisees that had stuck with the brand for years. And despite the lack of support from the franchise organization, they were doing whatever they needed to do to survive. And that was really cool. So many opportunities and a good group to start to work with. Although they were hurting, they were definitely hurting, but that's what we started with. And that's really where the kind of the lights went on and said, boy, there's a lot you could do here. Got a great brand, got a great product. We just have to do the time consuming and expensive build of an infrastructure so that people can.
That's a really interesting story. And it brings to mind the pandemic that put everything sideways. But you mentioned even during hard times, your loyal franchisees stuck with the brand and they did what they had to do. I'm guessing, but you would know for sure, did some really powerful ideas come out of that fortitude and best practices emerge that then got shared? Because consistency is so important with a franchise. And when you've got multiple units going off in their own direction and doing this and doing that, then you lose the consistency. Yet in this case, it sounds like something positive came out of it.
Very positive and very true. And I'll tell you the second half of that story because we ran right into the pandemic as we relaunched the brand. Yes. So one of the very first things I did, even as a consultant, was to visit with each franchisee, right? To hear the good, the bad, the ugly, what's going well, what's not going well, and what's getting in the way. What I was surprised to learn at that point was that the franchisees weren't really encouraged to interact with one another. So that was one of the first things that I addressed. We started having franchise-wide calls where some of those ideas that you just mentioned and some of those challenges, things that they need to overcome, really basic, right? Really basic problem solving, but encouraging that communication, exchanging information and problem solving. But more than anything, while we've been driving the car while we've been building it for the last 5 years.
Okay, that's interesting analogy. Yep.
And in those first 2 years, when we're starting from absolute square zero, building that infrastructure and putting those pieces in place, a lot of it relied on trust. So I had a group of franchisees that were very hardworking, had been somewhat mistreated for a while. I had to earn their trust, and the team had to earn their trust. So when you're starting from scratch and you have no infrastructure, everything becomes a priority. What do you tackle first? And for us, we're going to always choose those things that benefit the franchisee first. Why? Because if we can demonstrate to them that these little things that we're doing one by one have a positive impact on their bottom line, drive more customers in the door, get a greater opportunity for them to expand their business and do better, they're going to want more of that, right? So when you've got, how do you prioritize the priorities? We always prioritize by those things that would impact the franchisees first. So
Excellent.
that's how we did that. We acquired the assets of the brand in 2019, put our plan together, launched the new brand name, the new logo, the new packaging, the new store design, the vision. We'd shared all that with the franchisees, but launched it to the world. Don't ever do this. On Friday the 13th,
Oh, no kidding.
March 13th, 2020. By the following week, the entire world had shut down.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Timing being what it is. Unbelievable. This is, yeah, you're still here. You're obviously thriving. You've got like 30 plus stores across the country, pretty diverse. Let's talk about brand building a little bit, because if we were to go back in time 40 years ago when I was in college and taking my first marketing class, it was all about the 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion. And maybe there's some relevance to that. Now you believe in the 3 Ms. Tell us about the 3 Ms and how that's the key to a powerful brand.
I'd say, I think the brand always comes down to, my personal philosophy has been that your brand needs to be, as I said, the brand itself, the product, and then the infrastructure to be successful. But on a relationship with the consumer, I think we've learned so much over the last 40 years in terms of how marketing has changed. We're not pushing marketing anymore. Now we're engaging, right? The consumer is a part of that brand. That consumer is directing where that brand goes. And, now more than ever, creating relationships, meaningful relationships to where they don't feel like they're being marketed to, but where they feel like you're speaking their language, right? They choose you. And if they choose you, they convert from customer to loyalist to advocate, right? And at that point, that becomes your internal marketing engine. The biggest thing that we are focused on right now is we are absolutely an experiential brand, right? If in all the years that I would work with different brands over the years, we would look at what that brand strategy was going to be. We'd try to find what's your sweet spot in terms of your customer, right? And once we identified what that sweet spot was, then we'd say, all right, where do we want to go from there? Do we want to go up to a more affluent buyer, which means a premium and a luxury and a this and a that? We might not sell as many, but we'll make more. We're going to go for a volume approach where we're just going to push, discount, whatever that is. But what is that one unique and ownable truth that you can say about your brand that you're going to latch everything onto? So you look for that one unique and ownable truth. You've got to have that in order to compete. When I looked at this brand, what was so exciting was this brand has unique and ownable truths in spades. I've never seen a brand with so many points of differentiation that are truly unique. And so when I looked at do I really want to get into the coffee space? It's probably one of the most competitive spaces,
No
right?
question.
Oh my gosh, what am I doing? Right. And this brand is just loaded with those points of
Give us
differentiation.
a couple of those points, if you would. And because setting yourself apart from the competition is really critical. But before that, we were talking about reaching that Generation Z that's so hard to reach, and it's about experiences and engagement. And all that gets wrapped up into something called relevance. How do you create relevance and stay relevant without, and people are aging out. So is that your primary target market? Your restaurant team is the foundation of your business and most important asset. I know from experience that a happy team is a productive team that deliver great guest service experiences. Morale is the key. Check out myemployees.com/hospitality. My Employees offers impactful, consistent, and most of all, appreciated recognition programs that boost morale, reduce turnover, and drive guest satisfaction. My Employees is the industry benchmark, helping thousands of hospitality leaders build winning teams. Go to myemployees.com/hospitality. Running my restaurants taught me that the right tools move your business forward, so I'm a fan of Touch Bistro. It's more than just a POS, it's an all-in-one restaurant management system built by restaurateurs. Touch Bistro helps speed up service, reduce errors, and turn tables faster, while loyalty programs, online ordering, and contactless payments boost your bottom line. Plus, real-time analytics, inventory tracking, and staff scheduling are game changers. Want to learn more? Reach out to my friend Becky at BTARTICK@touchbistro.com or give her a call at 647-360-3994. She'll give you the full scoop and take great care of you.
This is also one of the most unique brands I've ever worked with as well, in the fact that, and I no disrespect to anyone with a medical condition, but it's almost bipolar, right? Most brands have a single sweet spot. When I came to this brand, what I found was that it had sweet spots at both ends of the spectrum. On one end, you had the customers that you said are aging out, who know this brand, who've known this brand for a long time, who know it for 100% premium Hawaiian coffees, premium price, premium product, not like a fine wine buyer, right? That's one end of the spectrum. They're probably more romantic about Hawaiian coffee. The other end of the spectrum is this Gen Z, Gen X. It's the group looking to call a brand their own and not wanting, in my daughter's generation, it was they want nothing to do with McDonald's. They're Chick-fil-A kids. This younger generation that's coming in now doesn't want some of the brands that we've all known for a while that are maybe based in Seattle that have a green and black logo. That's a brand that they don't relate with because that was their parents' brand, something like a Starbucks or a Pete's. Not saying that those are bad brands, just saying there's a decision that's being made by that generation that says, what brand represents me, right? What do I relate with? What brand speaks to me? They speak my language. They know what I like, right? They cater to my menu needs and things like that. They got a great loyalty, got super great social. I can interact. I can show that I'm cool because I'm with this brand, right? That is the other part of our audience. That's the other spectrum. And the value in that for a brand like Badass Coffee is we have a product mix that appeals to both ends of that spectrum. We can take someone who doesn't drink coffee at this point, and we've got the lemonades, and we've got the teas, and we've got the energy drinks. And those menu items were a 2.5 wave coffee concept in that you've got something that brings those younger customers in the door. And as their lifestyle changes, as their income level changes, as their levels of sophistication and trial with coffee and other things, you can have that lifetime customer. They're not going to check out when all the sugary drinks that they've had at another brand are no longer appealing to them. They can get some of that with us, right? But they get introduced to flavored coffee, maybe to start off with, or some of the flavored lattes. And then eventually they start moving into those categories. And so the value of bringing those folks all the way along is a really unique opportunity for a brand that I've never seen that has a solid base with the high-end, super premium customers, third wave coffee customers. And I've got this next wave coming that loves you for who you are because they relate with the cool vibe, laid back, the sights and the sounds and the smells and the menu that appeals to what they want.
That makes perfect sense. And you're in an enviable position because not many brands can say we have opposite ends of generations and we've got a loyalty from each customer base. And even as these people age out, we still have lots of people coming through the pipeline. So you're hitting a lot of bases there. That really brought that concept to life for sure. Now, the vibe and the heritage of Hawaii, only to a point. Like I can walk into a store in the Midwest, perhaps, and I'm still going to get greeted with an aloha, but it's not over the top and it's not so much about heritage and the culture. It's more about people's ideas of what a vacation to Hawaii would be like. Is that kind of the vibe?
I think you think of Hawaii. Hawaii is our providence, right? It's our gift and it's our approach to life. And providence is all about your roots and being authentic to those roots. And our roots for Hawaii, it evokes emotion. What I like to say, and what's really different from the way that the brand is presented now versus how it was presented in the first 30 years, was we were intentional in the design of the stores, not to be so over the top, like someone went into Walt Disney's It's a Small World After All and threw a picture. We didn't want that. We wanted something that if you've been to Hawaii, and you told me the story earlier about going to the Big Island, what you would see are some subtle cues that you would say, this feels familiar to me. This feels comfortable to me. This is what I love about Hawaii. But if you've never been to Hawaii, we want that store to be what you imagine it to be, right?
Okay. Yes.
What you'd like to see. And so that's where so there's cues of authenticity in terms of colors of the store. There's rich colors, greens and blues for land and sea, and tribal bands, diamond patterns as part of our packaging. Everything's integrated so that you really feel like
it's an experience. It transports you out of your everyday reality. You go get your coffee and you feel like you're someplace else, someplace exotic, right?
Yeah. And at the same time,
Yeah.
that badass coffee of Hawaii, we got that big donkey right there in the center. That's Jack, by the way.
Jack's the mascot.
Jack's the mascot, and Jack's that human emotion and connection. He's winking, right? He's iconic. He's unique, but that wink is knowing you, seeing you, balancing the name badass, right? Which some people may find offensive, but if they just take a step back, right? It's really that kind of a cheeky wink of fun, right?
Yeah, it's a bit irreverent. Yep.
A little bit, but not in bad taste. And so part of that brand experience, again, this is all about branding. How do you reinforce that brand? Yeah, you're going to get an aloha when you walk in the door, but you might get hey, make it a badass day on your way out. Or just, what kind of day are you having? Are you having a badass day, or is that why you're here? We give freedom within a framework to the employees, to the ohana that's working at the store, to create the right kind of relationship and to have some fun with it. That's where Jack comes in. And that's another one of those differentiating points. The name will bring you in the door. That experience and the coffee and the products, that's what's going to bring you back.
Now, I've seen the menu on your website, and it seems like you've got definitely a diverse and extensive product line, especially in the beverages, but you also have baked goods, and you mentioned the lemonades and the energy drinks, and you got smoothies and all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about the profitability of the products, the coffee-based flavored drinks, because I tell you why. I've got two daughters, one's 17, the other's 19, and we've got a local coffee franchise that has probably 5 or 6 units within a 10-mile radius of our house, and they go to multiple, but they, like you said, they go twice a day, every day, and it's now a habitual experience. And they totally dig the drinks, but there's something about it, and it's not just them, it's been adopted by their peers. It's like everybody seems to be doing this, and I'm sure that's happening with your business as well. So what about it? How do you make that happen organically, authentically? And you can't be contrived here, and clearly you're not. It evolved your brand, but it's like the magic dust is happening on Badass Coffee. It's the name, it's the vibe, it's the experience, but you can't duplicate it. You can't hopefully create it. It's like something just magically fell into place, and not anybody can do that. So again, there's that enviable marketing position. It's a really powerful thing. Restaurants sell tons of fried food, and your customers love it. But the hassles, hazards, and mess of fryer oil, cleaning hoods, and all that grease, well, you can forget all that with Restaurant Technologies. They deliver your oil, filter it, monitor usage, collect and recycle your waste cooking oil. Their AutoMist system automates your hood and flue cleaning, eliminating the fire risk. As a Restaurant Technologies customer, you'll also save 10 to 15% in your insurance premiums. Plus, get a bonus for new customer referrals. Get started at rti-inc.com or call 866-399-3639. Lily's Fresh Pasta refuses to compromise on quality. This family-owned business, built on time-honored traditions passed down from Lily to her son Antonio, lives on with every batch. Lily's Fresh Pasta is made to European standards using 100% non-GMO, glyphosate-free Italian unbleached wheat. Lily's is served in the finest restaurants in America. I've had Lily's fresh pasta many times, and I can tell you it's always molto buono. Elevate your menu. Serve Lily's fresh pasta in your restaurant. Ask your local food service representative or call Antonio directly at 603-818-2100 and be sure to follow Lily's on Instagram at Lily's Fresh Pasta.
It really is. I think we're really blessed in that regard. What we've tried to do, Roger, on everything that we've done on our menu is, I would say that there are some table stakes, right? When you walk into a coffee shop, there's certain things that you expect to see. You expect to see a breakfast sandwich. You expect to get coffee in the coffee shop, right?
Basic coffee, but then the lattes and the cold drinks, all that whole thing, a diverse product line, yeah.
So how do you make, so you're the umpteenth player in this highly competitive market. How do you make those things your own so that they can become your customer's own? And so if you spend some time on our menu, we have a breakfast sandwich, right? Like everybody else, it's got sausage, it's got egg, it's got cheese. How do we make that a little bit Hawaiian, right? Instead of a croissant or a English muffin or a biscuit, we put that on a King's Hawaiian bread. Wow, completely changes the flavor, becomes a craveable item that you can only get at a Badass Coffee. The next person who does that is a copycat. And so the inspiration for our drinks, for our LTOs, we follow the trends like everybody else. We try to anticipate different flavor profiles. We work with some amazing flavor consultants and menu consultants to help us with that part. But then we got to put our twist on that, right? So we tend to lean a little bit more towards the more popular tropical flavors. Again, something that has that little Hawaiian inspiration. Maybe the naming around it is we're leveraging social and we're leveraging our audiences to help us. We're leveraging our baristas to tell us what people are asking for. And we have drink competitions where they're creating based on what they have available to them. Those are all things that put us closer. It's the right balance, Roger, between data and experience and engagement with your customers. By having that engagement between the customers and the baristas, we get insights and we leverage that up against the data that we have. And then we make that our own. We have a sandwich in our menu called the Badass one that this sounds a little weird, but when we started creating our menu, I said, you know what? Hawaii is the #1 consumer of Spam per capita in the United States.
I remember hearing that. Spam is still a thing. Yeah, and especially in Hawaii, right?
Especially in Hawaii. So we have a sandwich that is called the Badass one, and it's got Spam. It has a little crushed pineapple. It's got a little Hawaiian barbecue sauce along with that egg and the cheese on the King's Hawaiian bread. That's an amazing sandwich. And in blind taste tests, that's the #1 sandwich that's chosen. And it's one of our best sellers in the stores. Nobody else has anything like that. So you become the first person in your friend group to say, oh my gosh, have you been to Badass Coffee? Have you tried their new Badass one or their new LTO, right? That's the kind of thing that endears you with your customers because they feel like they had a hand in that to a degree.
And you've been able to strike a balance between variety and profitability and not lose anything in the process. I bring this up because one of the things I specialize in is designing menus and consulting with clients for profitability, not just variety and appeal to the customer. And a lot of restaurants that I've worked with have this huge profit difference in every menu category. And lower profit items have a tendency to take profit away or sales away from more profitable items that they wish they're selling. They're filling seats. Their bank account isn't growing because that's a real, like I said, a balance. I worked with a client that had multiple pizzerias and the product mix was way too extensive and 90% of the pizzas were more popular sellers than their more profitable pizzas. And they're selling tens of thousands of these pizzas across multiple stores and they're losing tremendous potential profit in the process. Have you dialed that in really? Because I think that's a science unto when you've got a variety of drinks, you got a variety of food items, but you want everything to contribute a similar profit as possible. So you're moving all the merchandise. You don't have a waste or a spoilage problem, and everything is popular and you got plenty of a variety. And that's hard to achieve.
It's super hard to achieve. And thanks for bringing that up. Yes, we do focus on that a lot. I wouldn't say the strategy, just based on the nature of products, right? A drip coffee is going to have a much higher profit opportunity than a food item or a blended drink. So I would say that we would say buckets, right? So we've got our liquid on lips, right? So our coffee products, our drip products, our blended products, and then our food items. And so within those three buckets, I would say there are standards and expectations for profitability within each of those. We know historically across our stores, and we're also looking at what national trends are in terms of consumption of drip products has been on the decline for quite some time in favor of more blended drinks, more the drinks that you said your daughter likes so much. So we're aware of that, right? And part of our business model revolves around that balance, not only of kind of these three different buckets of profitability, but the percentage that they contribute to that. And in our stores, which are another point of difference, again, one of the many for this brand is
Can't have too many points of difference.
merchandise is the
Thank you. I was going to ask
sale
that
of
next.
branded merchandise, retail beans, the coffee beans, the hats, the mugs, the t-shirts, the coffee gear. Everybody wants to walk around and say that they're a badass. And so that as a category, which is another profitability, different profit level, right?
For sure.
So that is a completely different and separate revenue contributor nationally. And I don't remember the source, but the most recent source that I saw said most coffee shops sell between 1% and 3% of their revenue comes from the sale of merchandise. And for most of those, it's retail beans and maybe a couple coffee cups, right? The average
Travel
badass
mugs, that sort of thing.
yeah, the average badass coffee store, 15% of its revenue on average is from that merchandise wall. And in our highest performing stores, which are generally in more tourist locations or beach vacation locations, that can be as high as 35%.
That's significantly high.
While the profitability margin might not be as high as, say, drip coffee, the operation expense in terms of labor is very low. It takes you
Yes.
20 minutes to ring up a $50 sweatshirt, takes you 4.5 minutes to expertly prepare that beautiful latte that you're going to get.
An additional sale, because who's walking into the store? Most of the people that walk into the store that buy merchandise are buying a drink or buying a sandwich or buying something, and then it's either an impulse thing or they like what they see. It's branded, it's cool, it makes a statement about who they are, and yeah, they support the brand, and then it's just an additional profit center. That's tremendous.
And there again, that's what
Yeah.
we talked about earlier. That's that conversion point to where someone who walked in as a customer walked out as an advocate and they didn't even know it because they wore the hat.
The power of the influencers. And yeah,
Yeah.
people are paying you to wear your stuff around. And let's talk about the coffee now, the retail beans. Like most people obviously think of coffee as being South American. Are you on a one man, one company mission to make the world aware of Hawaiian coffee? Because I wouldn't traditionally think of it, but you produce some pretty amazing coffees. And I understand the product is tremendous, and I'm sure it is. And I'm a big coffee drinker. But it's like the world market for coffee is huge. And then you're the 50th state selling coffee. So where's the strategy there? Are you doing online sales of coffee as well? Is that part of the strategy?
It is. We do have an online store and online subscriptions, and that's a complementary part of our business model here. Actually, we also provide the fulfillment distribution of all the proprietary items here in Denver for all the franchise locations across the country. We do have an online store because we only have about 40 locations right now. By the end of the year, we should have close to 50, 55 locations, but that's a lot of green space in between. So again, back to branding, how do you establish this brand? The intentional strategy was to build the brand by relating with the consumer and engaging, making a connection with them. And we did that through social. And at some point you go from, this is really great, I'm the first in my area to know and be talking about badass coffee, to, I really want to try some of the coffee. And clearly I need to send you some.
Matt.
Then you have that coffee, then it's, where can I buy it? I don't have a store near me, so we buy it online. That is all part of a very intentional strategy to build awareness, into advocacy, into becoming a consumer, into becoming an advocate of sharing that consumer opportunity. But it also becomes a great way for cultivating franchise sales, because someone says, man, I've got experience in the restaurant industry. I've run this other brand of a sandwich shop and kind of want to stay in my area. And I love this coffee. And this is everybody that I've showed this to loves this coffee. There's no shops near me. Hey, do you have a franchise that's available in my area? So that's that part of it. But I think where we were headed with this, the coffee, Hawaiian coffee is so unique, right? In full transparency, it is not 100% of all the coffee sales we do. We specialize in Hawaiian coffee. Nobody represents the state of Hawaii and the Hawaiian agricultural efforts of coffee like Badass Coffee. If you go to maybe a third wave coffee shop, a high-end coffee shop, they may be featuring one Kona coffee or maybe some specialty Maui red coffee or something like that. Our entire top 3 shelves are full of 100% Hawaiian coffees, 100% Hawaiian blends, and Hawaiian blends with other international coffees. We also have coffees that have no Hawaiian in them. And that's part of that economic model as well, Roger. You've got to be able to compete with the rest of your competition. One of our differentiators is that no one has Hawaiian coffee like we do. No one can talk about Hawaiian coffee in an authentic way like Badass Coffee. And there's a lot to try. There's a lot to explore. So that differentiates us. And yet at the same time, other products that put us right there in the sweet spot with what everyone else is selling, point as we buy higher quality. We still roast like a craft roaster. And so we produce a better quality product for a comparable price on a product that has no Hawaiian in it whatsoever. So we like to say that we're all about sharing, educating, and creating enthusiasts for American-grown, 100% Hawaiian coffees. It's a very interesting market, right? This isn't like Colombia or Brazil where there's millions and millions of acres, and we're a first world country, and these are being produced in small farms. It's part of why it's so expensive. It's a very expensive crop to grow, but it has such an amazing flavor difference. And when we use those Hawaiian coffee blending with other international coffees, it creates some unique profiles that nobody else can match.
Besides the name Badass Coffee Company, the products are all named really creatively and capture the imagination of your target consumer. And I always thought that was a smart thing to do. When I had restaurants, everything had a funky name that people wanted to know more about, and there was a description of the item. But in some cases, the name sells the product. And I think you're having success with that as well.
We have, and that kind of goes a little bit earlier to what we were talking about on the menu, but you're right, on the coffee products as well. One of our blends is Pele's blend. Pele was the
soccer star?
God of Fire, right? Not that one. God of Fire, volcanoes. So a lot of, we try not to get too far to where it's pronounced. When I came to the brand, they had really leaned into that. And some of the Hawaiian language, if you're a mainlander, is pretty tough. And so that would become an uncomfortable moment for a consumer to stand in front of a menu board and it doesn't sound familiar to them. They're not sure that they can say it right, so they'll avoid it. So there's a fine balance there too of being authentic, being educational, right? Provide a little, who is Pele? Why did we do that? And that particular blend, for instance, is very dark roasted beans, right? A lot of fire. So you try to tell a story that people can relate, put it in a language that they can pronounce so that they don't feel uncomfortable and silly when they're at the counter. And if we sense that's where the aloha spirit comes in, that's where that wink of fun comes in, and you can have some fun with them without making them feel silly because they're not sure what that is.
I heard you say the word ohana earlier. Does that mean family? Because it's also the name of your loyalty program.
Ohana is Hawaiian for family. Boy, if you get time to spend in Hawaii, you look around. There's 2 words that we use a lot. It's a very big part of our culture, very big part of our brand. And those are ohana and aloha. Aloha is all that is good, right? That giving spirit, being kind, being empathetic, being generous, right? All the things that you would do on an individual basis, but also in your community. And as our stores are all franchise owned, one of our criteria for who we select as a franchisee is really based on their ability and on their history of being involved in their community, being involved with things that matter. Because when a new store opens, it's the joy of franchising, right? If we wanted to build corporate stores everywhere, we could do that, but there's no connection to the community. Franchises are built so that you've got a model that you can execute, but the secret sauce in any franchise business is the franchisee, right? They are the secret sauce. They're the ones that have the relationships in the community that people want to support that person, right? And when they do, guess what? They become part of our ohana. They become part of our badass family, our badass ohana in your hometown. That franchisee is already part of a greater ohana of franchisees. And we're just fortunate at the home office to be the ones who brought those folks into our ohana. So we use that word a lot. We use it in a genuine way. We treat each other like family. I come from a pretty big family myself. And while there's some folks that you may get along with better than others, at the end of the day, I know that my family has my back. and they know that I have their back. And that's really the culture of transparency and open communication and feedback. And we got to listen. You got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them proportionately. Listen to the franchisees. Franchisees, listen to your customers. Let's get that out. Let's talk about it. Let's see what we can do to innovate.
That's a beautiful thing. Scott, you've been a great guest on the podcast, and we so appreciate your expertise, your advice. And wow, what a crash course in marketing and branding and resonating with being authentic at the same time. And again, that's a balance too. Thank you so much.
Well, mahalo, Roger. Make it a badass day.
And thank you to our audience for tuning in. That was the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Can't wait to see you in the next episode. Stay tuned, stay well, and we'll see you then. Listen, what would it feel like to lower your operating costs, double your sales, lower staff turnover, create raving fans, and design a menu that literally prints money? Our online restaurant training system will teach you and your staff to rock your restaurant and transform your business. Head on over to restaurantrockstars.com. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to get started. You've got this.